The air handler and chiller ECM tutorials covered the summary by measure and the summary by equipment output worksheets, so we'll skip those in this tutorial. Two other worksheets that can be helpful to understand how the tool is calculating savings and what systems the energy usage estimates relate to are the bin data summary worksheet and the Calc Summary Worksheet. This tutorial will cover these two worksheets. For example, let's look at the energy savings associated with the air handler scheduling, economizer, and chiller supply fan VFD ECMs. For details on the baseline and proposed conditions of these systems and measures, consult previous tutorials. So I've already run those ECMs. So the tool estimates the electric and gas demand of the HVAC systems in both the baseline and proposed case based on an outside air temperature bin based analysis, which is shown on the calculation summary worksheet. So that's shown here. On the bin data summary worksheet, it applies the number of hours at each temperature bin to the demand values to obtain the total energy usage. Okay, so let's start with the calculation summary worksheet. So what you're seeing here is the calculated baseline demand related to air handler 403. From left to right, we have the outside air dry bulb temperature bin, the cooling plant demand of the air handler, the heating and reheat demand in units of therms per hour or kilowatts, depending on whether the building uses gas or electric reheat, the supply fan flow ratio, the supply fan and return fan demand, and finally the total electric and gas demand for each temperature bin. As you can see, there are no formulas in these cells. This is because the tool uses VBA code to calculate savings and usage values. So if you were interested in further understanding how the tool gets from the user inputs to the values shown in this worksheet, you would want to look at the calculation methodology located within the Help menu, which we can get to by any of the input tabs, any of the worksheets to the right of this General Information tab by clicking on the question mark. So under Theory, we can see the methodology associated with calculation here, and if we scroll down, you can see it for every parameter. There's also a tab here within the report section for describe the bin data summary and the calc summary tabs. Okay. Let's go back to the bin data summary. I'm sorry, the calculation summary tab. So below this, we can see the other ECMs, a table for each ECM, and that we ran in the tool. And then after that, you'll see the chiller baseline, and then the chiller ECMs come next. So similar to the air handler unit tables, the chiller section, we have the outside air temperature dry bulb. Then we have the outside air wet bulb, as this is relevant for cooling tower measures. Then there's a column for each energy usage component: chiller pumps, chiller, cooling tower fan, condenser water supply temperature, cooling load, heat rejection, and total demand for the outside air temperature bin. Regardless of the climate zone chosen, these tables will always show bin information for the outdoor air temperature range from -30 degrees to 120. Scroll down, -30. If you recall from previous tutorials, the demand worksheet will show you the range of temperatures for your selected climate zone. So note that only the range of temperatures associated with your climate zone are actually used in the analysis. In other words, you can disregard the values outside of that temperature range. So let's now look at the bin data summary worksheet. The bin data summary worksheet takes the demand values in the outdoor air temperature range applicable for the climate zone from the calculation summary worksheet and applies the hours of operation. The hours of operation per temperature bin and utility peak period are shown in blue for both electric and electric and gas. The total kW demand in therms per hour from the calculation summary worksheet are shown in magenta. The demand savings are shown in green, and then over to the right in orange we can see the electric savings, and then finally in blue the total gas savings in therms. Here there's also a table per run, starting with the baseline, then each ECM associated with your air handlers, and then going down to your cooling plant baseline and ECMs. As we can see, there are no energy savings associated with your baseline table. And then our scheduling measure, we see there's no demand savings, which makes sense because all of your kWh savings are associated with your hours. So we see savings over here, and the same thing with your gas. Let's take a look now at the energy savings associated with the economizer measure, which is the next one down, to further understand some of these fields. Okay, so the demand savings shown here is the difference between the previous table's total demand and this table's total demand. So our demand savings is 7.59. It's the difference between this number and this number, because this is the stacking order that they go in, schedule, then ECM. The estimated electric and gas savings at each time of use is the demand savings multiplied by the number of hours for the same outdoor temperature bin. So for example, our demand of 7.59 multiplied by the 2 hours associated with the summer peak utility period gives us a result of 15 kWh savings for that time period. Okay, going back, let's take a look at this cell here. The month of temperature peak column, these are based on the inputs on the demand tab as covered in the previous utility rate tutorial. If we go to the demand worksheet, we can see that the temperature is selected as high. So here, our selected temperature, we selected high, which means that the building demand peaks at the hottest temperatures. If the building was an electrically heated building, the demand might peak at the low temperatures for the winter months, and you would want to choose low instead of high. Okay, let's go back to our bin data summary. If you did that, you would see the months that you chose low down here at a lower outside air temperature, depending on which ones you chose. Your low temperatures down here. This month of temperature peak influences the total demand cost shown on the summary by equipment tab, but does not affect the peak demand savings, as this is always taken at the hottest temperature, which we've determined to be close to the DEER peak demand savings, so it can be used for utility peak demand savings reporting, except for in the case of climate zone 1, which you would want to do a separate calculation outside of the tool. A similar format is used for chilled water plant baseline and measures. We scroll down, here's our baseline chiller, and then here's our measure. So in summary, these two worksheets are not necessary to view for obtaining your savings results, but they can be useful in seeing just how the tool is estimating the results shown on the summary worksheets.